Kevin, it is week 7. We've made it. College football, baby. Ah, this is going to be another great weekend. I am so looking forward to this. For those of you who did not watch the recap show, I just want to quickly go over me and Kev's records. Right now, I'm sitting comfortably at 22-26, and Kev is at 23-29. We are still within the 40 to 50% range. So the hope is each week, chip it away. Just chip it away. Just a little bit more each week.
By the end of the season, I hope to be at 500 on
I
these
hope to be
50/50
at
guesses.
56%. That's my goal by the end of the season.
All right.
56%. Okay, Kev, couple of things cleanup I want to talk to you about. I saw an article on The Athletic that has a lot of people on the Twitter sphere, X sphere, whatever we want to call it, kind of going for the pitchforks. This guy from The Athletic said, is Arch Manning college football's first flop? So here's where I want to weigh in real quick because everybody else is talking about it. These are kids. These are kid athletes. He is 18 years old. However, NIL, he is getting paid like a professional athlete. So I do think he should get a lot of criticism for how he's been playing and how much he's letting down the team. I don't know. What do you think?
I think this is an all too common example of when expectations are too large and, somebody at not only an institution like Texas who is
Uh-huh.
coming off college football playoff, a berth, national championship, no, semifinals, but not only that, I mean, that would be enough to make somebody crumble.
Right.
But with his last name, it does get it gets to that point where you wonder if the pressure's got to him. But again, this is also just kind of a nice talking point for the pundits
Yeah.
to just kind of babble about, because the
Look,
truth is we're only 5 games into the season. They beat Oklahoma this weekend. They went out. They're still going to the college football
that
playoff.
is true. I think
It's
them
they're
being unranked, though, is fair after last week, a loss to Florida. They did crumble a little bit. Bill Belichick, also in my headlines for 2 reasons. One, I heard after Drake May's nice upset win against the Bills, which was just a all-time classic Mike Vrabel coaching experience. Belichick went around to all of the UNC coaches and like the office and said, "We don't bring up Drake May, don't write about it." And it's kind of uh, like one, I don't understand what the beef would be. I mean, it's kind of like Drake May is just like punching the air because he's never gotten to meet Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick just kind of like swapped places with him. But it's like, on UNC's part, are you really just that like strapped down to the bed by this man? Like he runs everything despite how terribly he's coaching. I just don't get it. He's not been worth the money. And on top of that, he's already talking with them this week about his potential buyout based on what he's done the first 6 weeks. So it's odd to me. The Belichick train is just the giant media cluster beep, and I don't know. I'm tired of hearing about it. I think he's tarnishing his legacy, and it just needs to stop.
I call me a broken record, but I think let the season play out for him, because NFL is not the same as college.
Right.
He's dealing with 19 to 23-year-olds instead of 23 to
And one 26-year-old.
38. Yeah. Yeah, true. And he's got, honestly, maybe he needs to break things off with his lady, because
I,
who knows? But from as like a Virginia Tech fan, what I will say is when I heard that Bill Belichick was going to be the coach of UNC, what did they say? Fell to my knees in the Bass Pro Shops. I was really sad because I'm thinking, all right, they're going to dominate recruiting around us. It's going to be tough. It's going to be another team that just jumps in front of Virginia Tech in the queue of trying to get back on track. And so it
right.
does kind of warm my heart to see them flop a little
Well,
bit, a little sick,
yeah. I
sadistic
mean,
way.
look, if it was like a team that has just constantly been a thorn in our side, well, look, we've been a thorn in our sides. Let's be honest here. But um, if it was like Clemson, well, Clemson's chopping down too. So I don't know. I want to be done with it. That's the moral of this story. Because it's taking away from all the other good storylines. The casual fans just want to hear about Belichick, 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 and it's taken away from all the other great storylines we got this season in particular. But I digress. Let's get into some of these picks if I can get the presentation thing to work right. Yeah, there's my little
Nice.
GIF.
All
Okay.
right.
Kev, you want to just run us through the slate?
Yep. And so, as Tyler said, they showed us our records. Since we have been recovering from our week 3 throttling, though,
Yep.
we're doing a lot better. Just so
Mhm.
keep in mind, we had a horrific week 3 where we went like 4 for 15 or something like that.
Yeah,
But
not
we got
good.
4 big games. That
Not
4 is the
good.
lucky number. I think it's the right number of games for us to cover. Gives us plenty of time to do our research.
That's right.
And we got the last week's games were in the 3:30 and 7 slots, but now we got early games here. So
Yeah, we
Alabama,
do. Yeah.
Missouri, Ohio State, Illinois, Indiana, Oregon, Oklahoma, Texas. What more could you ask for? Let's get to it.
Yeah. All right, Kev, let me start by talking about this Alabama and Missouri matchup. So, first things first, we got to look at the fact that they did meet last year, almost the exact same teams minus the quarterbacks. Alabama routed them 34 to nothing this time last year, and it's worth noting that the receivers with the biggest yards in that game were Brian Williams and Jeremy Bernard, who have been both having fantastic seasons and have been really thriving with Ty Simpson as a quarterback. Now, Kev, you and I both know that Missouri has one thing that sets them apart from the rest of the league, but they're a one-trick pony in Ahmad Hardy, the running back. He's the number one rusher in the league by far of FBS schools at 730 yards. He's going to be playing for an NFL team, and he's going to be a great player. That being said, Bama, or not that being said, because this helps Missouri's case, Bama is underperforming a little bit when it comes to the rush defense and the fact that the opponent rushes the opponent rush play percentage, Jesus, I can't talk tonight, is 59.86% for Bama. That puts them at 124 in the country. The opponent rush yards per game is 155.4, putting them at 70th in the country. So they do have some holes there. Now, we know that Bama is a West Coast offense. So let's check on Mizzou's pass defense a little bit to see if they can cover this wild throwing scheme that Kevin DeBoer has drawn up. The middle of the pack, not there's nothing that I could see when I was looking at the PFF rankings that could, bring them out of the normal rankings. So at that point, Kev, why don't you give me something you have on this game? Because I got one more point to go over.
Okay, and yeah, I think it's worth looking into how Missouri defends the pass. And the
Right.
one I could think the elephant in the room, no pun intended for
No,
Alabama's sake, but the elephant in the room is that Missouri has not played the same caliber teams that
no,
Alabama has.
that
So when
too.
you're
Yeah.
looking at stats, Missouri is the darling of the stat world right now.
Yep.
But time will tell if that South Carolina win turns out to mean anything. Um, you look at when they beat
I do have
Kansas,
some things to say for that. Yeah. Keep going.
233 passing yards allowed against Kansas, only 31
Yep.
rushing yards. So when you look at Alabama being a huge passing team, you think, oh, they're going to be able to take advantage of this Missouri Tigers team. However, Alabama's pass game does rely on their ability to have the threat of the run in place.
Uh-huh.
Alabama's not lighting up the world on 3rd and 9.
No, they're not.
They're completing the majority of their passes when they're in down in less than 6 to go. So I think the Florida State game is a perfect example of that. They couldn't get their run game going, and they became one dimensional.
Right.
Missouri, I mean, you can see the stats on the screen. Missouri has not let anyone get anything going on the ground. So it's going to be, it's this one might be the hardest one to pick.
Yeah.
Just because we know so much about Alabama. Missouri knows so much about Alabama.
Right.
We don't really know how Missouri's athletes are going to line up against Alabama's athletes. We know how their game plan might look, but this one's a tough one.
And I want to go back to that South Carolina game real quick because I was looking into that. Again, it was just a rushing fiasco the whole game. They had 285 yards rushing, and they were able to keep South Carolina to a cumulative -9 within the first half when it came to rush yards. And Bo Perbula for Missouri in that game, which is their biggest victory claim to fame, only had 171 yards passing total. So, I mean, that being said, the one trick pony is going to be Ahmad Hardy. And do I think that an Alabama team with under Kalen DeBoer is going to be able to scheme for that and double up on him? I really do. So I don't think I listed it in the picks here, but that being said, Kev, I'm going to just light you up for your first pick. Okay.
Go ahead, and I will back this one up because Alabama, they don't lose to a school with the same colors as the school they played the prior week. Let me just go into this a little bit. So earlier this year, Alabama plays red Wisconsin. Next game, they beat red Georgia. Before that, they played maroon and gold FSU. They lost, but the next week they came out and they beat maroon and gold Louisiana Monroe. Last year, Alabama beats Missouri. Next game, they beat another yellow school with a tiger mascot. Tyler, you know what that one is? LSU, of course. Year before that, Mississippi State, then Texas A&M. Win. Year before that, didn't write that down. But don't bring up 2021 because that's when they beat Georgia, beat Cincy, then lost to Georgia in the Natty. That's tic-tac-toe, 3 reds in a row. Give me Bama to win, but not to cover because they're coming off the same stretch of 3 games they had last year. They played Wisconsin, then Georgia, then Vanderbilt. All right. After that 3-game stretch, they beat South Carolina 27-25, didn't cover in that one. So I think they're going to have a similar performance where they win, but don't cover. That's why I took them money line.
Okay. Kev, I love hearing you go on some rants like that. But it's just like it's a beautiful like Rain Man like scene like that I'm getting to witness like live. You know what I mean? As you're putting together the colors of the uniform, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Based on how I'm talking, I don't think it should come as a surprise that I'm taking Alabama to cover here. I do think they put this one away, unfortunately. I don't think that this is the spot where we see Alabama get upset, particularly this season. I think if it was going to happen again after FSU, it would have been against Vandy last week. I do like what I'm seeing more from this Alabama team than what I've seen from Mizzou so far. And because the spread is so close, my golden rule of taking the under, I like the under 51.5 play here just based on what we've been saying about these defenses. All right.
All
Kev, you
right.
got something special planned next. You want me to just get right into it?
Yeah, let's go to the next slide here. So I'd like to talk about the synchronicities and the mysticisms of the 2007 college football season. So we're going to start on week 8. We look USF, number 2 team in the country, because prior they had beaten number 17 Auburn and number 5 West Virginia. However, they would inexplicably drop 3 straight, starting with Rutgers, then Cincy, and then Connecticut. Fortunately, their story doesn't end here. So we can also see Vanderbilt being pesky 18 years in the past, beating South Carolina number 6. Then the last thing to note here is that this is Nick Saban's first season with Alabama, as I've mentioned before. All right, they beat Tennessee 6-2. Let's go to the next slide. All right, and cue the violins, Tyler. It's a frigid Thursday night in Blacksburg, Virginia. There's 4 minutes and 11 seconds left in the 4th quarter, and the number 8 Hokies lead number 2 Boston College 10-0 as Matt Ryan takes the field at his own 8-yard line. 4 minutes left in the 4th quarter, down 10-0. The rain intensifies and the home crowd at Lane Stadium roars. Matt Ryan and the Eagles have other plans. Boom, 16-yard touchdown pass to Rich Ganell. Pow, onside kick recovered by Boston College. Wham, 24-yard touchdown pass completed to Andre Callender on 3rd and 20. On my 12th birthday, the Hokies broke my heart. Matt Ryan is bastard man. He will never know how bad it feels to be on the wrong end of a historic comeback, right? On week 9 of the college football season, 2007 college football season, 9 ranked teams fell. Next slide, please. All right. And as we can see, karma comes for us all, and a depleted Boston College team suffered their first loss at home against Florida State. It's worth noting that a 14-yard touchdown pass from John Parker Wilson to Keith Brown late in the 3rd quarter against LSU was the high water mark for the Crimson Tide in Nick Saban's first year at the helm. They would go on to blow a 27 to 17 lead in this game, then consecutively lose to Mississippi State, Louisiana Monroe, and for the 6th straight year, Auburn. Next slide, please.
Okay. My
All
good
right.
lord, we're going through the. Okay, keep going.
We got a few more slides here. And here we arrive at the whole reason I started down this path in the first place. The last time Illinois defeated Ohio State. When was that, you might ask? Saturday, November 10th, 2007, 28-21. Where'd I get? Okay, here we go. After Ohio State cut Illinois' lead to 7 at the end of the third quarter, Illinois would ball hog the hell out of the Buckeyes to the
Ball
tune of
hog.
26 plays to 3. In the fourth
Ball
quarter of this
hog.
game, Illinois had 26 plays. Ohio State had 3. Very interesting.
Very.
In addition to notable performances this day from Matthew Stafford, Noshawn Moreno, and Tyrod Taylor, we see that Boston College drops another game. Next slide. Here we will see the two roads diverging in a narrow wood. If you'll recall, 2 weeks ago, Oregon beat number 4 Arizona State. Well, here they lose to Arizona. Next week, they will lose 16-0 to an unranked UCLA. And the week after that, 38-31 to an unranked Oregon State team. On the other hand, Oklahoma, ranked 4, gets upset by Texas Tech. We'll see. They bounce back a little bit better. Next slide. All right, and we're going to speed this up a little bit. In week 13, both Kansas and LSU fall, leaving Missouri and West Virginia in the driver's seat for the BCS National Championship game. And what a national title matchup that was. Everyone remembers the Tigers and the Mountaineers in the 2007 National Championship game, right, Tyler? Next slide.
Sure. Yeah. I'm
Well,
watching the Phillies game on the side here, folks. I don't.
okay, a few things. So, as the now aging chunk of Gen Z might say, Missouri and West Virginia dropped the bag. What's kind of bullcrap, though, is that after beating the number 11 team in the country in Florida with me, Andrew, Fisher, our little brothers, and our dads in attendance, the Hokies moved from number 6 to number 3. On the other hand, the LSU Tigers beat the number 14 Tennessee Volunteers. Somehow they moved from the number 7 ranked team to the number 2 ranked team. The fix is in. And no, Tyler, this has nothing to do with LSU beating Virginia Tech 48-7 earlier in the season. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Next slide, please.
My God.
All right, so LSU beats Ohio State thanks to an explosive second quarter. Hokies did what Hokies do, and the matchmakers played things perfectly by pitting together Oregon and USF in the matchup between the two teams that suffered late season 3-game losing streaks. Anyway, Tyler, what's the point of all this? Nothing. We have a great matchup in store for us this Saturday. Next slide. Number 1, Ohio State travels to Champaign to face a team desperate to prove they are not the team that left Bloomington bruised, battered, and belted in the balls. What you got on this matchup, baby?
Kev, did you just do that whole thing for there to be no conclusion?
What do you mean? The fix is in, dude. They screwed the Hokies, and Illinois beat Ohio State.
Okay. In 2007.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Kev. I want to note here. Julian Sayin is right now looking like my favorite freshman quarterback. I'm going to be honest with you. That kid is just throwing with elite accuracy. He's not throwing through the most impressive yards or anything, but he is hitting it on point. Kind of just going off that. I want to do a quick QB comparison between Luke Altmaier and Julian Sayin. You mind if I do that? Get some numbers out of the way here.
Let's go for it.
All right. It's worth noting. Luke Altmaier is not a bad quarterback. In fact, he's trumping Julian Sayin by 200 and something yards when it comes to the cumulative pass yards on the year. Julian Sayin, more accurate. He's got 86.7% adjusted completion percentage, which is pretty damn unheard of when it comes to a freshman QB, especially at a school like this in Ohio State. Okay, 13 touchdowns going to Julian Sayin, 12 touchdowns going to Luke Altmaier. I can list all these numbers all the live long day. I'm excited about the QB matchup. I think that they are going to be slinging rock a lot.
Sorry to jump in, but you skipped the fact that Altmaier's thrown 0 interceptions to Sayin's 3, but that's just...
Yeah, no, I didn't have that one written down. I was going to get to that maybe eventually.
Continue.
Okay, historical side of this matchup. Illinois is 2-13 against Ohio State since the turn of the century. They've not found each other in the era of Bielema at Illinois and Ryan Day at Ohio State. They were set to play one game in 2020 that got canceled. That was the COVID era. So the last time they faced would have been back when Lovie Smith was coaching in 2017 in the Urban Meyer era. The result of that one was 52-14. Obviously, that doesn't matter now because it's a completely different matchup. Okay. Illinois is going off of a last couple of weeks. They go home, away, home, away, home, away, home. They've been traveling a lot. These guys are probably pretty gassed out right now. And as we have seen this year, Ohio State likes to beat the brakes off of any opponent that they come against, okay? In 2025, Ohio State right now, 4-0-1, all games straight up. And then as an away favorite, they're 1-0-0, okay? Since Ryan Day took over, Ohio State, when it comes to being a away favorite, is 15-13-2. And then when it comes to ranked opponents, they're 19-18-1. I do think that we're starting to see this is an Ohio State team, even though they just won the championships. We're not getting any semblance of a hangover with them. And I think that they're going to continue to steamroll. Okay. Let me take a pause. Kev, what do you got?
Okay. Now, I hate to fact check you here, but when you talk about the travel, let's see, they had at Indiana, okay, then they had at home against USC, then at Purdue. So
Wait.
that's
At home.
Indiana,
Like
Illinois.
USC. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, Indiana, Illinois, and then where's Purdue in Indiana?
Yeah.
It's tough,
No, it
tough one
is.
for me not to know, but in that same cluster of states. So they've
No
been
ball.
traveling, but they haven't been traveling far. The other thing I will note, and this is the recipe to beat Ohio State, I think. I mean, easier said than done. But again, if you're taking Illinois to cover the spread, they don't have to beat them. They just have to not lose by more than 2 touchdowns. So
Right.
this is what I found in my research, Tyler. You have to force Ohio State into third and longer than 5 yard situations, because in those situations this year, they are 3 of 18 when it's third down and more than 5 yards to go. That's if you
Okay.
don't count their 70-0 win against Grambling. They only encountered one such third and long situation, and they scored a touchdown on it. Now, to be fair, 2 of the 3 times they've converted on third and long have been touchdowns, crazily enough. But I think the one key part of this offense, similar to what we said about Alabama, where they need to get into these third and manageable situations, is that is what Ohio State needs. And when you're on the road to an Illini team that is, I mean, they got punched square in the mouth.
Yep.
There's no way around that. They've been picking up the pieces. They got a big win against USC, got another one against Purdue. It's sometimes a loss like that. You know, obviously other teams have the game plan to beat you, but you also have a bit of you know what not to do, I guess is what I'll say.
I never know what not to do.
Well, you didn't go to Illinois. So,
It's a fact. I
um,
didn't.
let me see. Did I have anything else
Yeah,
relevant
no, I
on
want
here?
to
You go.
talking more about. Wait, I want to go first. Let me talk. Looking at yes, Indiana. What caused Illinois to lose so drastically to Indiana? I think it was a combination of two things. Indiana just came out the gate hot in their, I mean, the first kickoff that was was it a fumbled punt or was
They
something with the
blocked
special
a
team? They
punt, I believe, to go up
blocked
either
the punt to go to
21-7,
the
yeah,
house.
or
Yeah, to go to the house
14-7, but
immediately. And then they came out the gate firing. They did allow 5 sacks throughout the game, and I think Illinois only had 3 yards rushing in the first half. So I think what Ohio State needs to do, I really do think they're going to win this game, but in order to cover the spread, they're going to have to come out of the gate hot because we know that Illinois sometimes takes a while to get adjusted in these big ranked matchup spots. So I do think that the way Julian Sain has been playing, he is a first half QB with 858 of his total yards coming in the first half this season. So I think that they're going to catch Illinois kind of asleep at the wheel because Ohio State, looking at the rest of their season, does still have Penn State and Michigan. And Illinois, really, this is it for them because after this, they're only going to have Washington, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern. And those are the notable opponents that they're going to be facing. So, that being said, Kev, do you want to just get into it or you have anything else?
I do have one more thing I just want to
Okay.
look at because obviously in that Texas matchup, I think Ohio State scored either 0 or 7 points in the first half. We know
Right.
against Washington they scored 7 points in the first half. I'm looking to see, okay, against Minnesota, even though it started off 7-3, they ended up scoring 21 points in the first half. So I was about to fact check you
Right,
there,
but
and I
you're
was
looking at
thinking,
yeah, thanks for fact checking me every time I say something today, Kev. That's really
yeah.
nice of you. I
Now,
appreciate it.
go ahead, show my pick, and I
Yeah,
will say
this is a bad fit.
I think Illinois is going to cover, and this is just a shout out to the Illini fan base. I see that you guys are getting screwed by the Big Ten matchup makers because 6 out of their 8 ranked Big Ten matchups since 2021 have been on the road. This is only their third time hosting a ranked team since 2021. Meanwhile, they've traveled 8 times, or sorry, 6 times to ranked opponents, and so that's kind of bullcrap. Missouri had a similar stat line where they never get the ranked teams at home. I'm looking out for the little guy. Tyler, what you got?
Yeah, I'm taking this one a little bit off vibes, and I do think Ohio State is just that good a team this year. I don't get how this game ended up being in Champaign, but I think we missed it. Is this is going to be where big noon kickoff is happening, so that'll be a fun one to watch. Yeah, I think everything I just said, Ohio State's going to take advantage of an Illinois team that might be riding a little bit higher than it should be. All right. Next
Okay.
game, we got the matchup of the weekend. Kev, I know we're both excited about this one. We got the Indiana Hoosiers, currently the darlings of the Big Ten, going into Outson Stadium in Oregon because they are going to be facing the number 3 Ducks in what is sure to be a banger of a game. Indiana is the dog by 7.5 points. This could potentially be a Big Ten championship preview, depending on how the rest of this season goes. Ohio State is the big question mark there, obviously. Both of these quarterbacks are Heisman contenders right now, and Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza. They're both coming off bye week, so that adds a little bit more of an unknown factor there. And both teams are coming off of a one-score Big Ten victories, so you know they're going to be hungry for some more competition. Kev, why don't you lead me off here?
Um, I think that the winner of this game and the winner of the Ohio State Illinois game will control their own destiny to
Right.
that Big Ten championship game. This this one thing I have heard is that Alston, I hope I'm saying that right. That stadium is electric. I think it just because it was a West Coast school, it fell off my radar as just a loud crowd environment. But from
Yeah.
everything I'm reading across the Big Ten subreddits, just for hearing fans speak, it kind of goes like Penn State, then you got Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, one of those three. It's a tough environment, and Indiana
Yeah.
just struggled. They just struggled in a tough environment against an Iowa team. They did beat the heck out of Illinois as we've discussed, but Oregon, I mean, as the season plays out, we will see if that Penn State game means as much as it did then, because it was a crazy environment. It was Oregon's first road test. It was tied at 3-3 for a while. I mean, they only scored 17 points in the whole game. So it's not like this offense is unbeatable, but I do think they do enough to win games.
Yeah.
And in a home stadium, I mean, this is like we said, Indiana, their only away game this year has been against Iowa, 20-15. So, Tyler, anything to add?
No. No, I'm just kidding. I do have some stuff. Um, Look, these teams are both pretty good at
That's an
pass
understatement.
defense. Huh?
I said that's an understatement.
Okay. You cut me off. Thanks, Kev.
I'm sorry,
I'm
dude.
just gonna hold on. Yeah. All right, now I get that. That's great. Okay, I mean, this title of this episode is just going to be Kevin and Tyler fight for the first time. So
Wouldn't be the first time.
wouldn't be the first time at all. So yeah, no. One thing I was looking at, because now that we have that PFF account, shout out Kev, I was able to get into some more specific stats that I could see. And looked at the pass coverage grades for these two teams, and they're both pretty good in terms of coverage. Being Oregon's 90.22 grade, that puts them at number 20 in the country. Indiana 90.1, they're tied at number 22, just behind Oregon. Again, I'm not a statistician. I don't know what goes into those numbers, but it's typically people a lot smarter than me, so I'm going to take their face value. Now, if you go back to the receiving grades, like, how well they throw the ball, and that um, convert inverse statistic, excuse me, for both teams. Oregon has a rating of 72.9, which puts them at 40, and then Indiana has a rating of 85.3, which puts them at number 5. So I do think there's a bit of a mismatch here. And while we know that Indiana is such a run-heavy team, they had hold on one second. Going back to their running production so far of this season, they do have 4 running backs with over 200 rush yards. That being said, it might not be the best matchup when you look at Oregon's rush defense. However, they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. We've
Yeah,
seen that Fernando. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna add to your point, they run the ball almost 63% of the time. So,
Exactly. But we have seen in those key moments, because you and I have talked about this on the show before, how Fernando Mendoza does like uh, to make those short passes, but he can show up when he really needs to. So I think that Fernando Mendoza making those big time throws is going to be what makes the change in this game. Let me see. Did I have anything else? Numbers and stupid stuff wise. Oh, yeah. Some gambling trends here from sportsillustrated.com. Indiana, 12-5 against the spread in the last 17. Oregon, 4-1 against the spread in the last 5. The total did go over in 11 of 13 of Indiana's last 13 games. And then, yeah, more just positive against the spread notes for both of those guys as the numbers I've written down. So, Kev, I'm going to give you your pick before I talk. And I think we're
okay,
on the
and
same train here. And that should say
yeah.
7.5 before you
That
say
should say
anything. I don't know.
7.5, but I just a couple things to add. One thing on the PFF grades is I believe the gist of those numbers are how well each individual player does in each matchup every play. So
Okay.
say they're lining up against a better player and they neutralize them, that's going to go in favor of their rating. Say they get burned by any player, that's going to go negative, and then the team ratings are just a culmination of that. So the one thing to note is Oregon, now I guess it depends how good Penn State actually is, but quality of opponent can throw off those
Yep.
numbers. Hence why Missouri's numbers are just amazing.
Yeah. And then one other player that's going to be my highlight in this one is going to be Omar Cooper. I'm taking Indiana like you. I do. If player props were a thing in college, and maybe they are, and I'm just not playing them, to be honest with you, I would take Omar Cooper's over receiving yards this so far in the season. He does have 6 receiving touchdowns already, tied for number 3 in the country, and 432 receiving yards total. So that puts him up there with the big boys being ranked in the top 25. Give me Indiana.
Oh
Oregon's
wow,
still probably going to win this game, I think,
yeah,
but a score and a half is. And Kev, you texted me actually earlier where you said if it was just 7, switch me back to Oregon. But that 0.5 right there, man, that's holding up the weight of the world. So
yeah,
yeah,
and
uh,
and I hope it's within set. I hope it's a close
yeah,
game because I think my heart says that Oregon's probably going to get it done at home. I think
yeah,
their team is primed and ready. They've really since coming to the Big Ten, they've only lost one game, and that was in the Rose Bowl. So like
yeah.
this is a team not to sleep on, but I guess we might be sleeping on their ability to run away with it.
Yeah, I am sleeping on that because I know they do that when it comes to, those lower like power four, or I'm sorry, group of 5 opponents, or even like an Oklahoma State team. They'll run up the score like no other. But Kirk Cinetti, I will also say this, that guy scares me. I watched some interviews with him last night, and he is a dog. He's got that beast mentality in him, and I love watching it. All right. Let's talk about the Red River Shootout. I mean, the Red River Showdown. I mean, the Red River Rhyme. I don't care. Let's talk about Oklahoma going to Texas for this annual matchup that is bathed in tradition. All right, Kev, you start me off while I flip to the pages. I got my notes.
Okay, and this is going to be late breaking news because as Tyler, you were going through your closing thoughts on the last game. Apparently, Oklahoma just released their official injury report. John
Uh-huh.
Mateer listed as questionable.
Oh no, I saw that before.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Sorry, the Sports Illustrated article is from an hour ago, but I'm surprised that hasn't changed the betting lines more.
right.
Just because I mean, I think with a healthy Mateer, I think Oklahoma's looking like a near touchdown favorite in this
Yeah,
game.
that's
Now this
okay.
one,
We can
sorry.
talk about it, Kev, but I feel like you just saying that, like we're both on the same side
Wow.
here.
Okay.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
And I'm very confident in this one. Even if he's not playing, I'll say it that way. Look, Michael Hawkins Jr., I'm looking at other areas of the ball here, and the quarterback is important. Let me think about this. The quarterback is the most important position. Nobody can take away from that. It's not the only position in the field. And you watch that Texas Florida game, they have so many more holes that they got to plug up in order for this season to work than Oklahoma does right now, looking at their past performances. Okay. Um, Kev.
Yeah. I here the one reason I am hesitant about this game without John Mateer is Oklahoma had a lot of trouble just getting anything going on the ground. And, despite, well, sorry, if Mateer's in, then that kind of mutes this point. But if Mateer's not in, I mean, Oklahoma can turn into a very one trick pony offense, which is pass, pass. And without John Mateer, they're not going to have that same Alabama caliber passing attack, Ohio State
Yeah.
caliber passing attack. They, I think that's why the over under on this game is so low. Um, which hey, if it's this low, I think you got to take the over. 24,
Yep.
21 will do that for it. Will get you over there. But it like I said earlier, I think this could be Arch Manning's redemption game. Our storyline coming out of next week could be Texas. Don't count them dead yet, or maybe this one is Oklahoma's chance to repay Texas for the 34-0
Yep.
slapping they gave them last year. Yeah, that's just my guts telling me Oklahoma gets it done on the road.
Kev, if I was to tell you that Texas, despite their record, their average opponent points per game is 12, would that give you some unease?
Texas is giving up 12 points per game.
Yes.
Hmm. 10, 29, 14. I guess there's two games in there we're not looking at, but I'm assuming they were blowouts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it's got to be. Wait,
Wow.
no, hold on. Okay, we might not be saying the same thing. I'm saying that Texas's opponents on average per game have scored 12 points.
Oh, so they're not playing high caliber offenses, is what you're saying.
Okay, we're gonna
This is
work on our
tough.
communication here, folks. No, I'm saying
Okay.
they're playing good defense.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
English
I'm
is a
saying
second language, folks. And the Phillies just scored a home run. Kyle Schwarber, Ding
this is big.
City.
This is big for Tyler. I feel happy for him.
Okay,
Even though we're in the middle of a heated debate on Texas's opponent's points per game. I'm gonna
heated.
fact check. You keep talking.
We're gonna go into the recap
Okay.
here.
All right.
Yeah, good slate here, everybody. Kev, we're gonna film the summary episode here in a quick second, but first, I want to talk about well, no, not first. Let's talk about our vibe check parlays first. Why don't you go? Yeah, go.
All right. I got Florida State 6.5 at home versus Pittsburgh. That seems like easy money. This Pitt team is reeling a little bit. They did get a big win last week, but well, actually, I'm going to strike that from the record. I still think Florida State at home gets it done. Maryland at home again. They just dropped one to Washington, but 10.5 points at those
Yeah,
odds. I think they keep it within a score. Georgia money line on the road against Auburn. They're only a 3-point favorite. We never figured out why it's so close. That gets you 281. My bonus pick is Davison Figueiredo is going to defeat Montel Jackson at UFC Fight Night Brazil this Saturday. He's a big underdog, even though he's a former flyweight champion who moved up to bantamweight. Let me just shout out my bonus UFC pick last week hit. Week before,
Hell yeah.
no. Week before that, hit. So I'm 2 for 1 on these UFC picks. Maybe I know gloves more than I know ball.
All right. Kev, we're on the same trend. We actually picked the same alternate
Wow.
spread, I think, for Maryland. So if anybody wants to follow along, the parlay is going to be a 5-legger, not a 6-legger. It is what it is. I don't want to get rid of that one. Texas A&M team total over 24.5 against Florida. I think Texas is just that much better of a team, and I think that they're going to run up the score. Penn State, look, after UCLA, James Franklin is going to be fighting for his absolute life against a Northwestern program that really doesn't have any candles to hold when it comes to the Big Ten. So, yeah, I like all those. That'll get you at plus 386 if you take those. And then a simple one, Philadelphia Eagles, -7 against New York Giants. So that's like taking candy from a baby right there. It is Halloween season. I don't think that the Eagles, one of the greatest teams ever assembled with the greatest general manager to ever walk the face of the earth, is going to let what happened last week slide against a subpar New York Giants team that has been subpar ever since they squandered the greatest running back of our generation in Saquon Barkley. So that being said, yes, give me the Philadelphia Eagles a cover against the New York Giants on Thursday. If you want to take that entire parlay, it'll get you to plus 792.
Hey,
Now
they
going
might have the Giants might have squandered the best quarterback in Daniel Jones as well. But
that's a fact. That
yeah.
is a fact.
All right, keep going.
Talking to Jared, his pick is going to be Alvin Kamara under 41.5 rushing yards. New England at New Orleans this Sunday at 3 p.m. And his pick did hit last week. His guarantee, his reach for the stars of Hunter Henry didn't go so well. Yeah, he told us he actually put 4 units on his best bet, and he's 1-0 so far, so he's got the best record on the show. All right, Kev, I want to just quickly run through all the other games that we didn't get a chance to get to, okay? You ready? All right. So, Friday night, we're going to have USF versus UNT. This is going to be an American Conference showdown that could most likely show us who the Group of 5 representative in the CFP will be, barring how Memphis and Tulane seasons end up. You'll see that over-under is 65.5 as a very bold call. I like the over in this one just because I think it's going to be chaos. All right. Now, going on to the noon slate on Saturday. Let's start off with, we got USF at Cincinnati, as the Cincinnati Bearcats return to Nippert Stadium after having an upset win against Iowa State. They not only find themselves entering the contention for Big 12 race, but QB Brandon Sorsby has been included in several Heisman race pictures that I'm seeing across the country. I do like Cincinnati to cover the 11.5 here. I think it's going to be kind of a blowout game and an establishing game. We already talked about Ohio State at Illinois and Bama at Missouri, and you kind of alluded to Pitt at FSU. So here we got the Panthers traveling to Tallahassee off of a big win against Boston College with a positive point differential of 41. But that's not to say too much because, as we both know right now, Boston College is kind of a doggy-doo-doo team. As an away underdog, Pitt is 1-6-0 since 2023, and against an FSU team that is desperate to keep any semblance of the hope alive for this season, I don't see that record changing this Saturday. Give me FSU to cover 10.5. All right, going to the afternoon game slot, we talked about Indiana and Oregon, and we talked about Oklahoma at Texas. Now we got to look at Virginia Tech at Georgia Tech. Okay, last week, Virginia Tech getting humbled by a Wake Forest team may seem like an easy reason to pick Georgia Tech this weekend. And as someone who has to defend them to be a serious contender for the college football playoff next week, I do need Georgia Tech to actually come up and stomp them. So I'm a little bit internally I'm internally flustered because of my conflict. That's what
Wait,
I'm looking for. That's the term I'm looking
to
for with this
interject,
game.
I believe
Yes,
your prediction was that they would be a serious contender for the ACC
that's
championship game,
fact. That is a
not that they would
fact.
win it. So theoretically,
Well,
they lose one game to Virginia Tech. They got a decently easy slate
okay, they're
ahead
not
of them.
losing this game. However, Georgia Tech, I do know that as they've played teams that are below them this season, that they have played it down to their levels. And as Georgia Tech looks to be building off of an ACC season where they don't really have that much competition left, I think that they could easily overlook this one. I still think they're going to win, but 14.5 points. If we could bet on this game, it's worth noting that any Virginia games me and Kevin cannot bet on, but I would take Virginia Tech to cover. Okay. Then we also got Iowa State at Colorado. I'm not sure what I'm missing in this picture, but one bad loss to another Big 12 contender should not put an Iowa State team that is 5-1 and outperforming preseason expectations within 2.5 points of a Colorado team that has frankly been well underperforming without Travis Hunter, going 0-3 currently in the Big 12. Now, if you had brought this up to me last week, had I not known how that Cincinnati game was going to go, I could have easily seen this being an upset look-ahead spot for Iowa State to potentially lose to Colorado. However, now they are fighting for everything after their first loss against a Big 12 contender opponent. So I think that they're going to come out hot. Give me ISU to cover 2.5 easily against Colorado. Okay. And then moving on to the night games. So yeah, we didn't actually talk about any of these, did we, Kev? No, we didn't.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So Texas Tech just looks so dang good. I think that they're going to keep riding it out. Kansas, while I think Jalen Daniels is a really good player, just looking at some of his numbers, I do not believe that he's going to be able to pull away anything substantial against Texas Tech. And this is one of those where I was kind of leaning on maybe taking Kansas as an upset spot, but nah, I'm leaning away. You got to give me Texas Tech to cover here with the 14.5. Florida at A&M. This is another one where we're going to be looking at two SEC teams that at the beginning of the season, everybody would have had the highest of expectations probably for Florida instead of A&M, but now that role has been reversed. Going into College Station is going to be tough for Florida. I think that after last week where they beat what was supposedly a big win against Texas, that they're going to be riding high a little bit. But I do think that the better Texas football team is going to pummel them and put them in their spot and cover the 7.5. This last one is going to be kind of controversial, or these last two. I'm going to take Auburn to cover against Georgia. I think that Auburn has been slipping, so to speak, this season, but a lot of it has been out of their control. What I mean by that is there's been a lot of penalty calls that shouldn't have been penalty calls. Some should have been, but as we all know, we're going to go back to that Oklahoma mishap where the SEC rotted back. I do think that Auburn has a little bit of a fire in them, and when you're going to be playing at home, I think that that atmosphere is going to be helping them to contend in this game till the very end. Give me Auburn to cover. I think 2.5 points, I probably would have taken Georgia, but with that field goal buffer, yeah, I like Auburn. And then Michigan at USC, even though USC dropped out of the AP poll top 25 after their loss to Illinois, they have had time to recuperate with that bye week in between, and I do still think that Jaden Mayava is a better quarterback on paper than Bryce Underwood. I think they come into this game with more to prove, and I think that they're going to come out hot. So give me South Carolina, give me USC to cover.
I like those. And I'm just going to make one quick plug. If Texas Tech and BYU take care of business, we're looking at a crazy showdown. Not to get your hopes up. It's got to be November 8th. They got about 3 or 4 games in between. But I'm looking at that Texas Tech BYU game, and
yeah,
that could be so interesting. That could be a top 10 matchup. You get an electric offense versus stout defense. It's at home for Texas Tech. So,
and that's another reason that I look at Texas Tech and I'm like, that they still got a pretty decent schedule. They got Arizona State and BYU still to go. Yeah. So Big 12 is interesting this year, man. It really is. I think, the competition at the top end isn't the best, but like interminglingly the best games, arguably. Okay.
Yeah.
Kev, before we call it at 48 minutes, we have a minute and a half before we hit a 50-minute mark. Do you want to add anything for the fine people at home?
No. Love you guys.
Love you too. Were you talking to me? Love you too. Okay. Bye. Wait. Oh, my mouse is in the wrong spot.
All right.